What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Mark of the Almighty Accept. Thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you here.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. Humanoid is a fantastic album. Congrats on another epic release. Did this just feel like a continuation or picking up where you left off after Too Mean to Die, or was this meant to almost be like new uncharted territory for Accept?
So for me, it kind of felt like a continuation. It was just, when we were doing Too Mean to Die, I was right in the middle of COVID, and everything was so strange, for lack of a better word. I mean, we had to stop production and go home and come back and then do stuff online. And it never felt quite like we finished. You know what I mean? And I think we kind of picked up where we left off on the last one with this one. So for me, it felt that way anyway.
Yeah. Well, is there sort of like a formula or sort of like a template with the making of each album that you and Wolf and everybody kind of like to stick to? Or is there maybe like a lot of experimentation or throwing paint at the wall, seeing what sticks?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, but there's no formula, I would say, because every song is different. Sometimes it's the music first. Sometimes it's the lyrics first. Sometimes it's just a song title that somebody gets an idea for and you run with it. Kind of like Humanoid, I think, is what happened there with Wolf. He had the idea for to do an AI type thing and came up with that title, wrote the music, and then I had to come up with a story. So,
Well,
but there's really no set formula, I don't think.
So I wanted to ask you, like, is Humanoid almost kind of like a concept album? Because I feel like there are albums that what I call shuffle friendly. Sometimes I'll just put on an album, pick a random song, get lost into it. Doesn't matter what order I listen to it in. But I need to start off with Diving into Sin and end with South Side of Hell in order to really get the full experience of Humanoid, which I mean is like a real compliment. It's once I start, it's like it's very cinematic, if you will. So was this intended to almost kind of have that storytelling effect?
I can't say that it was,
really?
But some things have a strange way of working out, and you can thank Andy Sneap for that because he's the one that puts them in order. If it tells a story that way, then I'm all about it.
Okay. So my interpretation of Humanoid is a result of me being a chronic overthinker when it comes to.
Could be, man. I don't know. It certainly wasn't meant to be a concept album. It very well could have been. I mean, we definitely could have went down the AI rat hole on a whole lot of other issues, I think. But it's always a bit of commentary on what the state of the world is. Our albums pretty much are always that way, I think. So you watch the news, and this will give you a little more insight into it. So
I think nowadays I don't think any music when you watch the news that's too deteriorating of an artistic process.
Really,
I'll
try not to watch the news.
I'll stick to the sex.
Hey, I call it the bad news. So.
I'll stick to the sex and drugs. That still has plenty of fire in its inspiration right there. But as a vocalist, have you always needed to hear the music to come up with the lyrics, or has there ever been a time where maybe you had a lyrical idea or maybe a line that could help guide the direction with regards to the sound?
Well, few of the songs on this album, I literally wrote the lyrics first and sent them to Wolf, and he wrote the music around the lyrics.
Wow.
So,
have you ever had the best lyrics ever, and then they're always like one syllable over every arrangement?
Oh yeah, always. That's a given. You're always gonna. The lyrics are always on the chopping block. They're the first things on the chopping block.
Yeah, unfortunately, that has to be heartbreaking if you have to like shorten a word or two.
It is sometimes, but it always works out for the best.
Can you give an example of one, maybe?
On this album, there really wasn't anything like that. I'm trying to think of one in particular. Wow, I'm drawing a blank right now, but I know it's happened so many times.
Yeah, and every vocalist has told me at least more than once. When you joined up with Accept back in the day for the making of Blood of Nations, were you looking at earlier Accept work and being like, okay, this is how I have to sing, or were you kind of given full range to bring your own mix into Accept?
No, I was pretty much, given given free range to do what I felt. But I mean, I've always kind of sang. I mean, I've always sang the way I sing. So, and I was, very familiar with old Accept and Udo, and I mean, TT Quick used to cover Accept songs back in the early '80s. Mm-hmm. So, we were one of the first people to play. We were playing that stuff, but people didn't even know who they were. So
it was a sign. It was just a sign.
Yeah, right. It could have been, man. It's a small world. I wouldn't want to paint it.
Stephen Wright joke. It's so good to hear Stephen Wright reference on this channel. Not too many of the younger death metal bands I've interviewed have no idea who he is, but
yeah, I love Stephen Wright.
Yeah, my dad raised me right.
Talk about sarcasm. It takes it to a new level.
It's the best, and it's very thought provoking. If you ask where the self help, if you ask where the self help section is in a bookstore, does that really defeat the purpose?
Yes.
See, like when a band says, "Oh, our lyrics are meant to teach somebody to help themselves," I'm like, but you're telling somebody to help themselves, so isn't that contradicting right there? So
it's an oxymoron, isn't it?
You could say that again. But if you do play like earlier materials from like I'm a Rebel or Breaker or whatnot, does it maybe resonate with you in a different way, or do you maybe channel a different energy than to singing lyrics that you did wrote off of Blind Rage or The Rise of Chaos, etc.?
Well, it's always different to sing lyrics that you wrote as opposed to lyrics that you didn't write. But I enjoy doing the old material, and I don't really try to channel, anyone or anything. But I do like the material to sound like the record as much as possible. So I try to, get the proper vibe going, and do justice to the songs, because the fans deserve it. They know what the song sounds like. They know what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, and it was really good because the first time I saw Accept was very recently, and I believe it was when you guys played Gramercy Theater. That was the first time I saw Accept. I know it took me way too long, but to experience that, I was very amazed. It really felt like it. Like everything fell together so cohesively, and the way you guys went from one song to the next, I think was really admirable, and I find it very impressive. I feel like after Queensryche and AC/DC and Killswitch Engage, like a great singer will just fucking kill it regardless of who wrote what or anything like that.
Well, thank you. I've always been, of the school that if you play the stuff right, if you do a good job on the material, the crowd's really not going to care who's doing it. If you make it sound like they want to hear, you've got it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to like the writing together, because I feel like you have a very distinct voice. Like I could tell when I'm listening to Too Mean to Die or The Rise of Chaos or Blind Rage, it's still very much coming from you. But Wolf has his own distinct guitar tone that can't be matched either. So when it comes to writing together, do both of you have to be in the same headspace when writing together, or is it better if you are own in your individual worlds when
It's easier for me to write lyrics in my own little world, that's for sure. Usually he writes, his writing is pretty much done on his own also. Once in a great while, we'll sit together and work on musical stuff. And lyrical stuff as well. But I mean, once in a great while, I'll give you an example. Straight Up Jack was one of those songs that I had written lyrics for, and there was no music. And he took a stab at writing it, and it was kind of dark, and I wasn't feeling it, It just, which is very rare, because normally he'll come back with something that's spot on. And I don't think he understood exactly where I was going with it. So the two of us sat down in the studio and rewrote the song together. And this is what you have now. So there's a good example. But normally, pretty much, we work alone until you need input. How's that?
I like that. That's really good. Here's a little debate I like to have with artists. Is inspiration something you could really seek out? Can you go out and look for inspiration, or does it have to just strike you?
Wow. Both, I think. Like if I'm in the process, if I know we're going to be writing a new album, I've always got I've got feelers out, and I'll see something or hear something and go, what was that? Oh, let me put that in my little bag of tricks here for later. My wife watches me do that because I'll just like, and she'll go, you just got an idea, didn't you? I go, yep. So yeah, but even if I'm not looking for those things, they just I've always kind of got my eyes on, looking for a hook or looking for something to write about. So
I'd imagine inspiration tends to strike at the most inconvenient times, right?
Always, yes.
Did you ever accidentally sing the idea that came into your head? Did it come mid-performance?
No, but I will pick this up and sing into it sometimes. So
Make that part of the live set.
Just so you don't lose it. Always ideas.
That is one beautiful thing about this, is that no ideas could go to waste.
No, it's your notepad for everything, isn't it?
Pretty much. When it comes to an Accept live show, it's an experience like no other. I think the way that you channel your energy, and the Accept fans are some of the coolest metalheads I've ever met, and the way that we all mutually. But when you're in the studio, it's a very confined and rather static environment, if you will. So, like, how do you capture that live energy when you're in the vocal booth in this, like, interrogation room in a way?
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's very hard. It's very difficult. It's so much easier to sing live, but you have to do it. But there's no adrenaline. There's no crowd. But there's your friendly neighborhood producer who's pushing you beyond human, ability to get it done. So Andy's very good at dragging it out of you.
That's impressive, and because that sounds deteriorating on both ends in a way.
Well, Rob Halford has told me the same thing. He's like, he's relentless. He always wants one more. He's like, oh, yeah, I know, man. He's like, stop it.
Do you find it like...
Just one more, mate.
Well, because an Accept song really does capture a moment. So if you're working on something for a long period of time, does it make it more difficult to sort of maintain and capture that moment?
Nah, it makes it easier, I think.
Really? Never been told that.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've gotten that answer.
It's, you got to stay with it, man, and working with the same people definitely helps. So
yeah, is there at all a similar energy to playing live as there is when you're songwriting? Is there anything that kind of bridges the two together, or are they completely separate creative mindsets?
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game for me. But the thing is, though, is when you listen back and you nailed it, then it's almost as good as being live. When you hear it back and you go, yeah, that's what I was going for.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like that. But I mean, it's funny. I literally have to ask singers or guitarists, anybody who's standing on stage, not so much drummers, but if you have to like practice crowd interaction and stage presence in a way, are you almost envisioning what you're gonna do in the live set as you do when you're recording that in the vocal booth?
Oof. Not really, I don't think. I should, because I'll tell you what, a lot of things that I do in the vocal booth, then I have to do them live, and I go, why the hell did I do that? Because I call it painting yourself into the corner. Like, once you get on stage, you go, I got to do that now. I got to do that, and you can only get one shot. Now I have plenty of shots in the studio to do that. Now I got to do it all in one shot.
And do you think that because everybody films shows now that there's even more pressure because any mistake
you make, yes. Whatever you do is going to be on YouTube later on. So
that's got to be that. I think is the worst part about the phones at the show. Forget if people find it. If somebody wants to film their shit, they pay for the ticket, they could do whatever the hell they want. But it is like capturing every mistake you make.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're only as good as your worst performance. So,
no pressure. No pressure at all. And here comes the most difficult question, though. How do you know when you're finished with a song?
In the studio, I imagine you're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
I don't. I let the producer tell me we're done with it, or Mr. Hoffman, because he's always going to put something else on there and layer a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, or come get me. I think I'm done, and come get me. Can you come back to the vocal booth, please, and just do this, put this on top of here, and I'm okay. So I don't know when I'm done.
Hey, that's a good answer. I asked Wolf the same question when I interviewed him to promote the "To Mean to Die," and I remember his answer being pretty long. I always have a little timer to make sure I don't go over interview time, and I remember his answer literally going we're 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes into answering. How do you know when a song is done? And I wanted to be like, how do you know when you're done answering the question?
Right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. And most of all, thank you for continuing to give us amazing new music. Humanoid is a fantastic record, and I can't wait to hear this
glad
stuff
you like
live. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear this stuff live and for the whole album. Just anything else with Accept you'd like to promote, the usual tour plugs, or anything else we could be expecting?
Oh, we're going to be everywhere between now and the end of the year. I mean, I'm enjoying my home right now because I'm not going to be seeing much of it this year. So
yeah,
lots of good stuff coming up. So keep your ears open.
Can't wait to hear it all. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Accept, Humanoid. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Alex.